Welcome to Crypto Talk Radio, the podcast for everyday investors like you. Visit us on the web at cryptotalkradio.net. And now, here's your host, Leister.
Thank you for that, Bailey, and welcome everybody out there in Crypto Talk Radio, found at cryptotalkradio.net. It's election day. You can't tell because it's just whenever it shows up for you, but I'm a bit tardy recording the episode. I actually lost track of time. I was watching the election results. Pretty intriguing results so far. I'm surprised. As I record this right now, Donald Trump is winning pretty handily. Obviously, Kamala still has a shot because we have not called in the West Coast, which traditionally has leaned Democrat. We still have Idaho and Nevada, which we're not sure about. And it's possible that Donald Trump may lose New Mexico, and he might lose Arizona again. And people are saying that that's rigged. And I think the problem really is just sentiment. There's a general sentiment in Arizona that's not consistent, I think, across the board. You've got kind of this even split amongst the constituents with respect to what they want out of a presidential candidate. So I don't think it's that there's fraud or it's fake. I think it's just you've got a 50-50 going on. See, it's not like California. California is overseen by its Southern California. By and large, Southern California is dictating how the whole state is going to lean. It's a sad truth, but it's the truth as we've seen repeatedly. We're still watching the battleground states, kind of seeing what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen because, again, Kamala still has a shot in this one. As we see it, it looks like she should not win. I'm saying that she still does have a shot because of the states that are outstanding. It's the battleground states largely. Trump did win a couple of the battlegrounds and got some of the electoral votes that I was surprised so far. And I'm surprised with his performance. Pennsylvania is a toss-up. I was surprised at that. I figured he would lose that in a wash, and he has not done. Wisconsin is a toss-up. I figured he'd lose that handily. Minnesota is a toss-up. I figured that would have been a clean sweep against him this time around like it was for Joe Biden. So this tells me my takeaway from the results I see. It's less about Donald Trump this time, I think. There's the support for him, but I think it's really more about a distaste for Kamala Harris. I think Kamala Harris has turned a lot of people off, and that's why they're not voting for her. And then there's not enough information about all the other candidates. We didn't see them very much in the media, and so as a result, nobody got an opportunity to really understand who are these candidates, who are they really, and what are they going to do for the larger society and cryptocurrency. That's what I wanted to chat about because cryptocurrency's success is being seen as the election's going as expected. Bitcoin's been going on a bit of a run, currently hitting around $74,000, $75,000, which is bringing up other alts with it. Today's episode, I figured I would take a moment to talk about some of these, what's the future hold, and the two different candidates and what we can possibly expect given the results of each candidate's success or non-successes. So I'll be talking about that, and then I'm going to do a little bit of 101 because I enjoy doing that, and hopefully you enjoy hearing it. So let's jump right in this. We're not going to spend a lot of time on today's episode. I think the election is going to dominate people's attention, rightfully so. Hopefully you had a chance to get out and vote. Hopefully if you're in a place where you still can vote and you've been disenfranchised by your state of choice, please don't allow them to kick you out of line. It is your right to tally your vote. And I would give you the message. Paper ballots are always the best. You hand it directly to one of the election people as a paper ballot. You take a photo of your ballot in the privacy of your own home to make sure that your vote is tallied properly. And don't trust these autumn what's-its, but that's my own personal opinion. Coindesk.com, and we're going to zoom out to the month chart, specifically targeting Bitcoin. I do want to speak briefly about Ethereum because there's a little bit less exciting news on Ethereum, but who's surprised, right? Because I've said the same thing multiple times that it seems like nothing's changed. Bitcoin, a 24-hour low of 68,000, a 24-hour high of 75, just shy of 75, currently hovering around the 74,000 mark, trending in an upward direction, a sharp upward direction. The expectation, this is where I said I was going to contrast the two candidates and their impacts on cryptocurrency as I saw it. This is where we expect that a Donald Trump win is going to skyrocket Bitcoin specifically. A Kamala Harris win should raise cryptocurrency slightly, but not to the degree that a Donald Trump win would do. Now, how does that affect all the other alts? And when I describe alts, I'm referring to ones, say AVAX, for example, Solana, for example, Base. How does it affect those? Here's how this generally, not always, but generally works. Bitcoin, for the most part, traditionally has been used as a conduit to make money that then flows into all the other low cap, aka low market cap coins out there for additional stacked profits. In other words, if you made $1,000 on Bitcoin, you now have $1,000 to toss at some altcoins. But you also have money to toss at some garbage vol coins, for example. Some of the quotes I saw out there, which I don't necessarily subscribe to, I'll share them because I thought it was a laugh. Some people swear that you could toss $100 into certain vol coins and net $10,000. Is it possible? Abso-freaking-lutely. In fact, I'll tell you a story. There was a token, and it's one of the Trump vol coins, garbage vol coins out there, and it had just launched. I tossed, I believe it was $100 in this business and made $900 profit. Just off scratch, I got the money out and didn't do anything with it because I knew it wasn't going to last because the liquidity was in a garbage state. As I said with Hachi, it was the same situation, and I knew that that's the narrative now as they launch these low cap tokens with crap liquidity because it's designed to trap you. Doesn't mean that you can't make some profit, and I'm not suggesting that you gamble, but if you are a gambler, you want to roll the dice. They are out there, and with the pumps we see and foresee from what's happening with Bitcoin, you absolutely can make some profit off of this that's going on, and the election is a great opportunity to make some quick gains, especially if you target things like Bitcoin, things like AVAX, things like Solana, things that are guaranteed to have a climb. Doge is guaranteed to have a climb because Elon Musk is associated. You have all opportunities to make some really good money with these if you time it right. You just have to be careful not to leave your money in them and get yourself trapped and get your stuff took when they're going to dump, especially if Kamala Harris ends up winning. A lot of them are going to dump simply because of sentiment. Does not mean you don't have an opportunity to make some money, and I would encourage you to take advantage of these opportunities to make some cash. Now's the time to do it if you're going to do it. I think the international shores are going to be pumping a lot of these tokens. I'm not even just talking the vol coins. I'm talking in general because they're going to see, remember, the time zone for them to wake up is now. So they're going to see that a lot of these are running up due to the sentiment on the U.S. shores, and they're going to see and FOMO into a lot of these tokens, which is going to cause even further effect of positive trend. At some point, though, you've got to bank on the possibility, the strong probability that people are sitting on major bags from when everything crapped a couple of years ago, and they're going to be selling out for major profits. That's why I always tell people to make sure you're only putting in what you can afford to lose because they're going to dump it sometime. If it's throwaway money, you have a real key opportunity here to make some good money, and I would encourage you to take advantage of it if you're so safe to do so and you're not tossing everything at it. I don't see any problem with this, in my personal opinion. Now let's talk around the two candidates, and let's talk around the future state, and let's talk around what could be, what might be. Donald Trump has promised that he would, I'm going to fire Gary Gensler the moment he gets in office. People have said he doesn't have the right to do that. First of all, traditionally, the head of the SEC has stepped down on their own volition if it's a changing of the guard. So if you go from Democrat to Republican or vice versa, traditionally the head of the SEC has stepped down on their own volition because they don't want to serve under somebody that doesn't share their political beliefs. However, Donald Trump could absolutely dismiss the head of the SEC if he chose to. He does not have to have permission to do it. There are certain roles where he can absolutely say, you fired if he wanted to. And the SEC chief is one of those positions. Do I think he would do it? Not day one. I don't think he would do it right away. I think he would make Gary Gensler's life a living hell and cause Gary Gensler to quit in frustration rather than deal with him because he doesn't want the negative press of firing him. He wants to allow Gary Gensler to quit out of frustration of dealing with him. The other piece we have to consider, during this election, it's strongly possible we see a changing of the guard with respect to Congress. This is also very potentially bullish news because if Congress shifts guard and we get strong momentum on the congressional side, I'm talking both House and Senate. Remember the last time Donald Trump was in office, he didn't have the backing of Congress 100%. He was struggling. So here, if he's able to wash Congress and get them all on his side, it may make it easier for him to do the kinds of things that he wanted to do. We still have the risk, and I am going to tinfoil, we do have the risk that some sort of weird man-made disease shows up out of nowhere and, derails any plans that he has. But the point is that if none of that happens and he's able to get those people on board and he's able to push through some of the agendas he's talked about, and most importantly, he stays alive, because remember, he's fairly old. I think he's 79 now. There's a lot that's fighting against him this time. So I respected him because he's pushing. As old as he is, he's old as hell, and he's still pushing. And as rich as he is, he's still pushing. He's still trying to get in there and make a difference, a positive difference in people's lives. What's my wish list? My wish list, no matter who's in office, my wish list is the same. I believe in a strong economy. I believe that we all would benefit from a strong economy. And I think a lot of people don't understand the ramifications of not having a strong economy under our belts, that it's harder to buy what we need. And they're making it harder, the rush to EVs in particular. I don't know if you've gone car shopping recently, but the price of cars being average $30,000 is a bit of a joke. They would say, just take out loans. Taking out loans does what? Saddles you with debt. When you're saddled with debt, you never catch up. That's the trap. You're told, many of us that are older, you're told saving is the best thing that you can do. Saving only works if you make enough money at the job to be able to save and still pay your routine bills. That's kind of difficult when rents are averaging $1,700, $1,800 a month and your employer doesn't want to increase the salary any. And it's not about the minimum wage. It's about fair wages and being marketable and being competitive with the wages that are offered. The way that we encourage that competition is we do not support monopolies as we've encouraged over the years. I don't know if you've noticed this. We have way less airlines than we used to. Now, of course, Leister at CryptoTalk.fm doesn't fly on a plane, but when I did fly on a plane, way back in the yonder, we had way more airlines, tons more airlines. And now you essentially have 3 or 4 choices. That's not the way it's supposed to be. Hotel chains, Embassy Suites used to be a standalone chain, and then it gets bought out and all these other ones get bought out. And so now you're down to basically 4 chains. That kind of consolidation was never the spirit of what we should be doing. All the malls that are getting shut down, the moms and pops that are getting shut down, these are not healthy for us. They're not healthy from an economic perspective. We should have more embracing of that diversity for us. We should have multiple choices and not be forced to purchase products manufactured in China because they're all going to Amazon, and Amazon is pretty much the only source for certain products and services. I talked about this on the casual side. That's where we are. So what does cryptocurrency have to do with what I just ranted about? Think about the potential that cryptocurrency could open up for you and me. Many people are entrepreneurial in spirit. We believe in creating our own business and offering goods and services. And we believe that the current options that are out there are crap. I'll be honest with you. If I had all the money in the world and didn't really care, I would absolutely set up a video game rental store. And you might think I'm crazy. We're in an era of streaming. Why would you do such a nutso thing? Here's the truth of the matter. The streaming's all good, right? The Steam's all good. Did you know you're paying for a license to play those games? Did you know that you're paying a lot of money for games where you might not get the same price value out of them? You're paying because you're essentially compensating some overpaid actor to do motion capture on the whole game AAA platform. Instead of, I can drop $10 a month and I can rent as many games as I can tolerate, let's say 2 games a month or something fair. But within this, I get infinite playtime because I can play all the newest releases. I can have a good time with my friends. See, that's the throwback of what we had. You can't do that on the digital side. There's these platforms, Xbox Game Pass and all that offer you access to those games. Absolutely. What do you do when you're one of those areas that doesn't have super fast internet and these games are exceeding 30 gigs? It's not sustainable. So I'm telling you, if I had all the money in the world, and this is where cryptocurrency would play a factor in what I'm describing to you. If I had all the money in the world and I struck it rich, I would absolutely go with a video game rental store. And I know it would be successful, especially if I go in those areas where you can't get super fast internet. That's the model of targeting a market that you know is untapped because everybody rushed away from it. Nostalgia is cool again. We see this all the time with video games. That's the market. So people that are talking about Lambos and crap with their cryptocurrency, I just shake my head at these idiots because that's the waste of your money. You're giving money to the billionaires. Why would you do that instead of investing money into something, and yes, it's fiat based, but something that can make you more money? This is my message to you. Whatever it is that you choose to do with your cryptocurrency trading and your profits that you eventually do take is up to you. I'm encouraging you to parlay that money into something that benefits society, benefits you in the long term, and does not enrich billionaires. Certainly by paying taxes, you are paying billionaires, but you get what I'm talking about. I'm talking about being subservient to the billionaires on the Lambo and the Tesla garbage that you don't really need. You know they're crap vehicles. That's just my point on the matter. Now, let's step forward in time. Let's assume that Kamala Harris gets in office. Let's assume that Kamala Harris somehow wins the seat and she becomes the president. What do I foresee happens on the cryptocurrency side? I actually believe Gary Gensler would still quit if Kamala Harris went in office, not because he disagrees with her policies, but simply because I don't think he can stand her. I don't think that he would be willing to work under her regime. But the replacement, I think, would be worse than him because Kamala is not competent enough to lead cryptocurrency. I don't believe she has the competency to put somebody in the seat to help it succeed. Rather, she would put somebody in the seat to lock it down and overregulate it. I'm not against regulation. I said it needs to be smart regulation. And Kamala Harris, as we know from her prosecutorial background, doesn't really have the sense of how to balance what is overregulation and just enough regulation and insufficient regulation to come to something that's fair. She simply just muscles forward based on her advisory staff telling her what the right answer is. We already know her advisory staff doesn't know what they're talking about because none of them talked about cryptocurrency. I covered on my past episode, I said she's an underdog. And if somebody doesn't get in her ear and tell her what it is about cryptocurrency, she's going to lose this race. As we record this, she just got her Western states that we expected her to get. That's California and Washington. We expect she's going to get Oregon because that seems like a no-brainer to me. Even if she gets those, and let's say she gets Nevada, fine. If she does not get the battleground states, she's losing the election. Right now, she's slated to lose the vast majority of the battlegrounds. I'm shocked at that, but that's what it currently looks like. We have to let time pass because some of these are really tight races like North Carolina. North Carolina is essentially razor thin. At this point, we have a lot of holdouts, but she still has a chance in the race, but that's based on the battleground states that currently Trump is leading. And because, as I said, she's an underdog, she needed to have the right message to appeal to those voters that support cryptocurrency. Stats came out of Michigan talking about how more males came out to vote for Donald Trump than ever had been seen before. And I would argue, if you look at who really supports cryptocurrency, it would skew towards males. Not because of anything specific to cryptocurrency. There are certainly crypto girls out there shilling ass on X and Twitter. I'm talking about, statistically speaking, men are more likely to support cryptocurrency. Statistically speaking, this is because they see people like the Ben Armstrongs and the Andrew Tates and all that nonsense, and they want to be like those guys, knowing they never can be, but they want to be like those guys, so they support cryptocurrency. The women, for the most part, they're intrigued by it. They may do trading on it, but the vast majority of them are not going all in, as you see on the male side. They're still listening to the mean tweets of Donald Trump, and it sways their decision. This was never more clear to me than when I saw Trump lose Colorado. That, having been there, I understand some of the mentality. Donald Trump did a very good job at one thing this time around. He went and targeted the battleground states. He targeted the states that were most likely to guarantee him the win. He spent more time in the ones that I think needed his attention, like a Pennsylvania, than I thought he should have, but it was clearly a good strategy because he's got it as a toss-up now. I didn't expect that he would be able to accomplish what he's accomplished this time, even if he doesn't win. He certainly has performed better here than he did against Joe Biden, regardless of his claims of fraud. And I would argue that the talking of cryptocurrency played a factor in his performance this time around, as I said it was likely going to, because the young people who are now of age to vote want to hear a support of cryptocurrency. More importantly, the young people, I think, listening to certain people, not the Andrew Tates of the world, are hearing people like myself talking about the damage to the economy. There are people that listen on the casual side that have heard me rant about the damage to the economy, and they hear Donald Trump at least has a solution. Whether or not he can pull it off is still an open question. We don't know if he has what it takes to make it work and if he survives. And J.D. Vance, he's kind of on board with Trump, but he's kind of not. J.D. Vance, I would argue, was a bad pick. In my personal opinion, I would have chosen Vivek Ramaswamy. That's my personal opinion on it. But J.D. Vance seems to have come around. He's kind of coming a little bit more moderate and calming down. He's a very good speaker. I just don't like some of the stuff he says, and I think it was a bad choice compared to Vivek Ramaswamy. I thought Ramaswamy did a better job, resonating with the younger people than J.D. Vance ever could or would. Time will tell whether or not that's a good pick. I think Kamala Harris screwed the pooch with Tim Walz, who's the idiot sending tanks out there in the street, shooting paintballs at people, light them up, simply because they were sitting out on their porch. That's that idiot. Tim Walz, this nutcase who lied, stolen valor. Tim Walz, who can't do a debate correctly. This was the worst, in my opinion, the worst pick for a vice president I think I've ever seen in history, and I've seen a lot of them. Tipper Gore, gosh. But Tim Walz, I thought was a bad pick. I think that harmed her a little bit, in my opinion, because Tim Walz himself, he's never talked cryptocurrency that I've seen. So now you got two people that didn't want to say anything about cryptocurrency, which I believe was the hot button topic of this election. Neither of them really talked about the economy hardly at all. And Kamala tiptoed around when Biden went up on stage and he had his flubs even during her campaigns. They tiptoed around him. They didn't address the elephant in the room. They didn't talk about all the stuff going on. And then I thought, in my opinion, Kamala would step forward and finally say something about the wars and say something about all the turmoil going on international and the fact that we allowed a lot of that to happen. And she ducked the smoke. All of this together, right? The sentiment is what I'm really talking about. I'm talking about the sentiment damage by all these different events and things that she refused to speak about. And you got to understand that in a lot of cases, these people in the United States want to hear, even if there's not going to have anything happen, they want to hear somebody has some sort of a plan to allay their fears and concerns about various topics. People don't need their concerns allayed about abortion. We know what it is, but we don't have a solution because no matter what people propose, somebody gets pissed off. Donald Trump came in there and said, look, let's leave it to the states. It's up to the states, because he wants to give everybody a choice. Look, if you want abortion, go to a state that supports abortion. If you don't want abortion, go to a state that doesn't support abortion. And now you have the choice. That's what it is. This is a biblical strategy that he's employing. And people still are pissed off because there's this narrative that the federal government must protect people. Well, that narrative about protection, then what does it do? Trickles over to things like cryptocurrency, where they believe they have to protect you from cryptocurrency scams. Some people are weak-minded to where they want that protection. They want to be kept safe from cryptocurrency scams instead of people like myself and those I advocate for, who simply need to make sure education is getting out there so you know what to look for. That's why I talk what I talk, and I want to make sure you're educated and well-informed about what to look for and the fundamentals, because I believe it's all about independence. You make your own choices, and you're accountable if you make a bad choice because you were tempted. That's why I don't want you to be tempted off of garbage. What I don't want is the federal government babysitting me or telling me what I can or can't trade, because that's what they want to do. That's what Kamala has said she wants to do. So when I said to people, you need to vote with your brain, not with your heart. That's what I'm talking about. Do you want somebody dictating what you can and can't do with your money, what you can and can't do with your land? If you do, that's fine. I'm not supporting of that. I believe you should have the right to make your own decisions for your own reasons. Same as my body, my choice with the whole abortion. Same with the vaccine. Same with everything. I believe individual choice and accountability remains supreme, and I will always support that. That has nothing to do with Republican Democrat, though. That is just simply liberties of individuals that's enshrined in our very writings. Cryptocurrency comes along and it's not in our writings. It's never had laws. It's never had any sort of guidance around how do we make this available to people in a safe way. I'm not suggesting that we should not have regulation. I'm suggesting that I want smart regulation that does not lock it down or limit it and instead encourages education around it and opens up the facility to trade it without it being an onerous task. I don't want it treated through the IRS, for example. I don't want it regulated as gambling. All these different proposals they talked about. I don't want CDBCs. I don't want anything where the government is issuing or controlling or managing or monitoring any of it. I want it where it's available for people to trade. I want it where it's easy for us to cash out. I want it where the central exchanges can do business with us and leave us alone. It doesn't matter if it's a garbage Vol coin or an altcoin or a Bitcoin. We can transact anything that we choose that the exchange chooses to trade, and we accept those losses that we might incur because of the decisions that we make. I don't want halting. I don't want any of that nonsense that we do to the stock market, because I think we should have the freedom to make our own decisions, and most importantly, the freedom to fail, because failure is how you learn, how you grow and develop. Society has become weak where they no longer want to embrace that. They no longer want to feel bad. Well, you have to feel bad or you can never know what it feels like to feel good. That's Crypto 101 too. If you don't know what it means to suck at crypto, how do you know when you're actually winning at crypto? Now, I said something. I said 101, right? That's going to close out our episode. It's a little bit of 101. This is just quick. It's not going to be long at all. I want to help people understand. I talked about liquidity already. I want to help people understand trade volume. Trade volume is, right now, there's people that only care about volume. Okay, I see it's active, right? This is active, it's trending, right? You see it on all these things. Trade volume activity may or may not be a good thing. If the trade volume that you see is not consistent with the market cap and not consistent with the liquidity, it almost always means they're using bots to manipulate you, because they know that the volume traffic is what you're looking for. The case against the Saitama scammers called this out. Max Hernandez was saying, if you don't have volume, you're going to fail, because they know anybody who's new to crypto, they're looking for that trending. They're looking at all the different sites. They're looking for the trending ones. What has the most activity? What has the most volume? That's got to be the most popular. They don't screen out that it happens to be automated, fabricated, fake, phony traffic. So it's incumbent on you to look for the signs, and it's simple. You look for where's the source of this traffic. If the traffic doesn't match the market cap, you know that it's not money flowing into the project. If the money doesn't match the liquidity, you know it's not money that's being locked into the project. And if money's not locked into the project to a sufficient degree, it means volatility. If there's not a lot of money to share amongst the pool of people trading, it means high volatility. Doesn't mean you can't make a profit. It simply means that you are at risk of getting dunked on. And especially if it's a brand new projects are going to have a reasonably low liquidity, but you don't want it dirt low. I saw a project that launched with like a $17,000 liquidity and had 3 million in market cap. Come on, really? But that's what happens. And so you look and you see that's the pump and dump graph. And it's because there's essentially not enough money to go around. The trade volume is high, but you're not seeing significant growth of the value of the tokens that you hold. Instead, it's just pump and dump. That's because the volume is fake. It's artificial. It's fabricated. It's not real. It's designed to get you to FOMO into a project. If you choose to FOMO into it, that's your prerogative. But it's important that you recognize that sign. Volume alone is not the monitor for success. You look for that in accordance with market cap and with liquidity to understand if that's truly legit traffic or not. I'm not suggesting that you look for projects that don't have bots. They all have bots, right? But what is the ratio to bots versus legit traffic? It's easy to see it once you know what you're looking for. That's why I'm sharing this now. It's fine if a project has bots. You just don't want excessive bots, because the bots are almost always selling at a loss. The bots are not buying significant amounts. So given these two, that means projects usually go down when the bot traffic exceeds legit traffic, because the legit trader is going for what? Profit. A bot is going simply for the traffic, regardless of the profit that it makes. Obviously, market maker bots, like with the exchanges, want to make profit off those trades. I'm saying it's not their core focus. The core focus is to fabricate traffic. What did I just say? I said that even the centralized exchanges have bots out there creating artificial traffic, because that's what they do. Because they have to get people trading on the exchange. They have to influence price. A lot of them do it to influence price. They want it to go up at points. They'll do bots to do that. They want it to go down. They'll do bots to do that. Bots are all over the place. All you have to do is make sure you measure the traffic that you see against the market cap to make sure that makes sense. They should be reasonably close. Your liquidity is not going to be exactly the same as your market cap. That doesn't make any sense, but it should be within reason, 10, 20% maybe of the market cap or higher, ideally higher. And then just understand off number of holders. Is it possible that any of them could dump on it? You'll know, because if somebody has $200,000 worth of tokens and there's only $300,000 of liquidity, what does that mean? That means that they chose to dump out. Yes, they could tank the project price, albeit possibly temporarily if it's a positive project. If it's something that's popular, it may recover. You just need to understand these ebbs and flows I described and know what to look for. Hopefully that's been informational and helpful. Like I said, the election's interesting right now. This is a completely different ball game than we saw before. Donald Trump, it looks like he's going to pull this one off because he's got a pretty good lead. He only needs 40 electoral votes left. We'll have to wait and see. Kamala still has a chance because of the battleground states. They're still up in the air, but it looks like Donald Trump's going to win this one. Let's see where crypto goes. We're expecting a major run on Bitcoin if Donald Trump wins this election simply because of the rhetoric he talked about. Can't guarantee it, but that's what people think is going to happen. And if Bitcoin runs, all the different alts are going to run naturally. We're going to see another pump, and we might get to the 100K that the YouTubers lied to you about. That was supposed to happen in October, aka October, and never did show up. Stay tuned. We're in for a bumpy ride and a roller coaster.